Hello everybody and welcome to this video. What I'm going to be going over with you in the next little bit is different ways of solving equations or simplifying expressions that you'll find throughout the Algebra 2 Regents exam. Sometimes you get to a question and you're not quite sure how to do it, or sometimes your math isn't working out. I want you to have an alternate route of solving that type of question. I call them shortcuts. I want you to know sometimes they're not necessarily shorter than doing it the right way, but when in doubt, if something's not working, there's always another way to solve a certain type of question. And I want you to have all of those in your back pocket ready to go, either as an alternative way of solving a problem or as a way of checking. For those of us that are striving for mastery, you can do the question the quote unquote right way, and then you can use these methods that I'm showing you to check your answers. So shortcut number one is something that you can use on the exam if you see any wordage like equivalent to, same as, same solutions. Sometimes it says equals. Sometimes it says not equivalent to, not the same. Sometimes it says even something like rewritten as. Any type of verbiage that means that something is equal to something else, you can use this shortcut. So what you're going to be doing, and I'll show you in the calculator for a few of these examples, is you are going to store numbers for the letters that are in the problem. I always use a 2 stow x, so I'm going to store in my calculator that number for x. If you've never used the store option before on your calculator, I'm just going to show you. You press the number that you want. I always use 2. Stow is right above the on button on that left side, right next to the 1. X, and then press enter. It'll just give you the number that you've plugged in. So before we even get into some of the tougher examples, for those of us, like I said, who have never used the store option before, what you just told your calculator to do is every time you type in an X, it's going to plug in a 2 for you. It's a very useful tool on really any math problem, because if you have to plug a number in, typically it's like if it's a negative, you have to be careful with parentheses. For this, that kind of goes away. Let's say I just want to do 8 times 2, I would do 8x. It plugs in 2 for me and gets 16 because 8 times 2 is 16. Of course, that's a very basic example, but I just wanted to show you its use, 2 stow x. I also, for those of us that might be a little bit worried, that 2 does not store for x when you are graphing. So if you go to your y equals and you have to graph something, it does not plug in the 2. That is its own thing. So if I go to y equals, and let's say I just want to graph that, it graphs it for me. I didn't have to store anything. It just completely erases your 2 stow x, okay? So what I'm doing is 2 stow x, and then sometimes you have multiple letters, like if you look at number 2, which we'll get to, there's an x, an a, and a b. We'll talk about that when we get to it, but it's just storing a number for the letters that are in the problem. Now, here's why this little shortcut works. What you are going to do is plug that number in for the variable into your original equation or expression, and then also plug that same number into each of your multiple choice answers. If you get the same outcome, that means that that multiple choice answer is equivalent to your original expression. Again, this is just like a workaround of doing a question. So I'm going to show you how to do it for number 1. I think learning through example is way easier than through words, but if you need more of a description, please read through that entirely, okay? So for number 1. So by the way, these are all prior Regents exam questions that were on previous exams. So this is the type of level you're going to see and the types of questions you might see as well if history repeats itself with these repetitive types of questions. So with number 1, it says, which of the following equations has the same solution? If it has the same solution, it's going to be that equivalent format. The correct way to do this question is to complete the square. And it's just a step in completing the square. So if you know how to complete the square, you could do it the right way, and then you can use this way to check it. Or if you're like, oh no, I forgot how to complete the square, this method works as well, okay? So what you are going to do, because it has that same word, it's like looking for that equal expression equation, you are going to set up that 2 stow x enter. So I'm going to do 2 stow x enter in my calculator. Now, next I have to plug in the original equation. So what I boxed in over here is what I'm going to plug into my calculator. So it's x squared minus 5x plus 2. And I get an answer of -4. So now my next step in doing this shortcut is to plug in all 4 multiple choice answers and find the one that is the same. So find the one that's also equal to -4. Now this one's a little bit tough with the setup, which is why I wanted to start you with a doozy. You can kind of see the next ones won't be so bad. To be able to use this shortcut, you have to have the equations on the multiple choice answers in the same format that your original is in. So see how the original is equal to 0? That means that my choices also have to be equal to 0 for the shortcut to work. So this first one is equal to a negative 33 over 4. I'm going to have to add that 33 over 4 over so that these cancel, and now it's equal to 0. But now it's a very quick step. I got it equal to 0. This is what I'm going to have to plug into my calculator to see if it's equivalent to that negative 4. So I'm going to type that in. X minus, it is 5 over 2 plus 33 over 4. If you don't have that fraction option, make sure you're putting parentheses around your fractions. Oh, I forgot the squared. It also helps if you type it in correctly, so please be very careful. I just double checked. I typed it in. We're good. I got 8.5. No, 8.5 is not equal to negative 4, which means this is not my answer, and I'm going to move on to the next one. Now, same idea for the next one. It's not in the correct setup as the original. I have to get this equal to 0, so I'm going to add the 27 over so that it is equal to 0. So now this is what I'm going to have to type into my calculator to see if it is equivalent. So it's x minus 5 squared plus 27, and I get 36. 36 is not equal to negative 4 either, so it is not choice 2. So repeat, repeat. That's very like how you're going to see all these questions are. I have to get this one equal to 0 to be in that same setup. So since it's a positive 17 over 4, I'm going to subtract the 17 over 4 over, so it's equal to 0. And then I'm going to type that in. So I'm just going to copy and paste. So it's x minus 5 over 2 squared, and then I want to change this part to be minus 17 over 4. And look, I got negative 4. So when I type this into my calculator, I got negative 4. Negative 4 for this choice is equal to the negative 4 from the original. So this is the answer. Please be smart and check all of your choices. I'm just going to do this one super quick so you can see what I mean. Rinse and repeat, literally the exact same type of thing. Get it equal to 0. Type it in, and I got negative 14. So negative 14 is not equal to negative 4. It's not choice 4. So again, if all of that made sense to you, that's one of the harder ways of doing the shortcut, and it's because it wasn't in the correct setup. Because that original one was equal to 0, I had to get all of these equal to 0 as well for this to work out. Okay, let's try the same shortcut again now for number 2. Number 2 is a little bit tough as well because there's a lot of different variables. So it says the expression x plus a times x plus b cannot be written as. Because it's saying cannot, I want to find the one that is not equivalent. So 3 of them are going to equal that original, 1 of them won't. This is also why you want to check all of your answers. If you checked choice 1 and it was equivalent and you picked it, you would have been wrong because you want to find the one that's not equivalent, okay? So because this one has multiple variables, there's a couple different ways that you can do it. I'm still going to do my 2 stow x, enter. You cannot use the same number for all variables, so you have to be very careful about that. So I chose to use 2 for x. I'm even going to write it down just so I remember. 2 stow x, I'm going to do 3 for A and 4 for B. So you can stow, that's what I wrote here, sorry, it looks like SB. Stow for different letters in your calculator. I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'm also going to show you a different way to plug them in because I'm just going to show you literally all the different ways we can do this. So I already did 2 stow x. I'm going to do 3 stow. To get an A on your calculator, you're going to press alpha, which is right under the second button on the top left. Mine's highlighted in red right now. And then you'll notice above all of the buttons on your calculator, there is a letter. If you look above the math button, there's an A. So by pressing alpha math, I get the letter A, and I can press enter. So now every time I type in an A, it's going to plug in a 3 for me. And I want to do that same thing for B. So 4, stow, alpha, B is going to be the apps button. You can see that letter B right above it, and then press enter. So I've now stored 2 for X, 3 for A, 4 for B. Every time I type those letters in, it will plug those corresponding numbers in for me. So if I plug that all into my original was X plus A, so alpha math, and X plus B, so alpha apps, enter. It plugged in my 2, my 3, and my 4, and I got a 30. Okay, so that means I'm trying to find that one that does not match 30. Now, for this question, if you were like, wow, we're storing for A and B, that's a lot to type in, I'm a little confused, you don't have to use the letters. You can do X plus and use 3 for A, and then do X plus, use 4 for B. You still get 30. They are both different options. Personally, I like plugging in the letters because there's less thinking. If you want to go through, you could literally put like a 3 here, a 4 here, a 2 here, a 2, a 2, a 4. Again, I'm just showing you every way to see what you would prefer. I personally like to type in the letters. So that's what I'm going to show you for the choices. For choice 1, I have to type in A, parentheses, x plus b, plus x, parentheses, x plus b. And I got 30. Don't pick it. That is equivalent to the 30 that I got for the original, but we want the one that's not equivalent, so not choice 1. And then you'd literally just continue on. Same process, which is really nice. Once you get this process down, it's literally so repetitive. Boom, I got 40. 40 is not equivalent to 30, so that's probably my answer. Again, please check all of them. Just to be sure, I will show you in the next couple of questions. Oops. I'm not very good at talking and typing at the same time. I'll show you in the next couple of questions what I mean for like when this shortcut sometimes doesn't work out. X squared plus a plus b, x plus... Wow, I really cannot type and talk at the same time. That was not working out. I think I messed it up. It threw an extra parentheses in there that I did not type, so that's a little weird. So I'm just going to try to get rid of that. Why won't it get rid of that? X squared plus parentheses a. Ooh. I should have never talked while I was typing this in. It messed me up. So a plus b. Why is it doing that? Oh, there we go. A plus bx plus ab. You do get 30. So that other one threw extra parentheses in, which also just, let's pretend I did that on purpose. Be careful and make sure you're typing in exactly what you see. If you look at where I got that 34, first of all, that would have been a red flag because you can't have two answers that aren't equivalent. But it threw in those extra parentheses for me. That really only happens on the calculator app, so don't stress about that. But just make sure you're typing it in exactly as you see it. This one is equivalent, so it's not that answer. And then I'll just show you for the last one real quick. Same thing happens. Plus b times x plus a. Boom, I got 30, which is also equivalent, not that answer. Pick the one that's not equivalent, which is choice 2. Again, lots of different letters, plugged them all in, good to go. Okay, the next one is where you're gonna see how checking all of your answers is very important. So it says the completely factored form of. So if you're writing something in a different form, they should still be equal to each other, even though it's in a different form, like 12 inches is 1 foot. Those are different forms. It's still going to be equivalent in value. So completely factored means it can't be factored any further. This one has all n's. I'm just going to use x's on the calculator because it's a little bit easier. When there's multiple variables, that's when you want to be careful. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 stow x, enter, and type this in. Now, you can simplify it first if you want to. Notice there is an n squared and an n squared. You could combine like terms. If you combine them wrong, it's going to mess up your whole question. So I'm just going to leave it alone, type it in as is, even though this is terribly long. I'm going to be very careful, and I'm not going to talk. We learned I can't talk while typing. Now again, because it was so long, just double check that you typed it in right. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. Okay, I typed that in and I got 0, which is fun. So that means that I should be able to type in the choices and find which one also equals 0. So I'm gonna type in choice 1 first. X squared minus 9, x plus 6, x minus 2. And look, I got 0. That means that that is an equivalent form, but that's not the right answer. So even though it's equivalent, you have to be careful with using this shortcut. Still use the stuff that you know and learned throughout the course. If something needs to be completely factored, even though it's equivalent, look right here. This n squared minus 9 is not completely factored. This could be dopsed. It would be n plus 3 and minus 3, and it's not completely factored. So even without using the shortcut, you could have gotten rid of that one first, because even though it's equivalent, it needs to be completely factored, and that one's not. This is also why checking all of them will help. When you plug in the next choice, x plus 3, x minus 3, x plus 6, x minus 2. You also get 0, and that's that red flag for you, like, uh-oh, 2 of them are equivalent. What the heck is going on? You can go back and then realize the completely factored form. This is why we want to check all of our answers. So this one is choice 2. You should, of course, plug in 3 and 4 just for sake of time. 3 and 4 do not work when you plug them in. They are not equal to 0. Okay, if you want to check them, go for it. I'm going to move on to the next question. So for number 4, we're working with a question that has an I in it, so it does still have that wording, though, is equivalent to. I want to remind you that I is not a variable. I is a button on the calculator, so you're not going to be storing anything for I. We're just going to use that I button. So when I'm looking through, this one only has an X, so I'm going to do my 2 stow X enter. You don't have to keep doing 2 stow X enter. Once you do it once, it will just store 2 for X. I'm just showing you, like, if this was the first question you saw, that's the first step you should take. Boom. Now I'm going to plug in my original. 6 minus, this is 3x minus 2i squared. Now you should be in a plus bi form under mode. If you're not going to mode, change it to a plus bi form. For some calculators it matters, for some it doesn't. Just when in doubt, make sure you check that. This is what I get. So my original is equal to negative 26 plus 24i. And I'm trying to find the one that is equivalent. So now I'm going to go through my multiple choice answers, type them in, find the one that's equivalent. So when I typed in choice 1, it is equivalent, negative 26 plus 24i. So that is going to be my answer, but you should check all of them. So I'm going to go on to the next one, 9x squared minus 12xi plus 2. Not equivalent, right? I got 38 plus who even cares? It does not equal. The next one, negative 9x squared plus 10. Yep, negative 26 doesn't match, boom, and then you check choice 4, it also doesn't match. But you want to check all of your answers to see which one is equivalent. And again, if you accidentally type something in wrong, or if it says something like that factored completely where it's eliminating some choices, you want to plug them all in. Okay, for question number 5, this one is a little bit iffy with the shortcut, but I did want to show you an iffy type of question because it'll at least eliminate your multiple choice answers. Sometimes it's not like a foolproof way, all right? But eliminating when you're like clueless on a question is still a really helpful tactic. So for number 5, I'm actually going to show you the right way to do it first, and then I'll show you the like shortcut, and you can see how it kind of helps, kind of doesn't. You'll see. All right, so the correct way to do a question like this, it says a study of black bears in the Adirondacks reveals that their population can be represented by the function blah, where t is the number of years since the study began. Which function is correctly rewritten to reveal the monthly growth rate of the black bear population? If you jumped right into the shortcut for this question, because of its word right here, rewritten also means equivalent. Like if you're rewriting something in a different format, of course it's going to be equal to it, okay? So like I said, I'm going to do this the right way first. When we are changing the time from a yearly rate to a monthly growth rate, that is not going to impact this number. If you remember from the growth formula, apologies if your teachers do it a little bit differently. Did this one say it was growth? It did, growth rate right here. So because it's the growth formula, we don't need this minus at all. But what I want you to focus on is the different parts of it. If you remember this beginning letter, even if your teacher uses different letters, that beginning letter is the starting amount. If we're starting with 3,500 black bears, of course, we're still going to be starting with 3,500 black bears in all of these equations. So that number is totally irrelevant to this problem. Because it has shown up before, one of the choices, let's say choice 5, was P of t equals 700 bears times blah, blah, blah. That would immediately be incorrect because you have to still have the starting amount of black bears. Even if you're changing to a different growth rate time unit, you're still going to have that same initial starting amount of bears. So if that happened to show up, I just wanted to show you that's a really cool elimination tactic. This one, unfortunately, didn't show up like that. Okay, so because we're working with the growth rate, you're looking at this part of your function, which was this right here, that 1.025. So I still have that 1.025, but that is my yearly growth rate. We need to convert that to a monthly growth rate. So if we're going from years to months, in your head, what you need to be thinking of is we're going from big to small, And you also need to realize that it is 12 months in a year. So we need to take this yearly growth rate and make it smaller because we're going from years to months, which is a big unit to a small unit. So this 1.025 needs to be getting smaller. See how this 1.34 number is bigger? Goodbye, goodbye. What you have to do in your calculator is either raise this to the 12th or to the 1/12. Those are your options. Because this is supposed to be getting smaller, right? Years to months is big to small. You would be raising it to the 1/12. If you raised it to the 12th, that would make it bigger. That's not going to be your answer, okay? Now, you can't just go around in a function and add 1/12 to stuff. You have to balance it out. So since I put that 1/12 right here, I also need to put a 12 right here to balance it out because 1/12 of 12 would cancel each other out. So in your calculator, you would then, again, I'm showing you the right way to do this question first. This is not a shortcut by any means. Okay, this is 1.025 to the 1/12. And it gets me 1.002059, blah, blah, blah. So that number would round to this number here, but both answers have that. I need to have the one that has that 12t on the outside, which is right here, choice 1. So doing it the right way, I realized that choice 1 is the answer. Now, when you're going through and doing the shortcut, this, again, is not the best type of question to do for a shortcut, but I want you to know it's always there for you when in doubt. So when you saw that rewritten, you would do your 2 stow x, enter, type in the original. The original is 3,500 times 1.025 to the x. And this is what I get. So I'm just going to mark that number down, 3677.1875. And you want to find the multiple choice answer that matches that. So I'm going to type in choice 1, which we know is the right answer. 3,500 times 1.00206 to the 12x. So what I'm seeing is we're not identical. Okay, that 3677 is 3677, but it's instead of 0.18, it's 0.20. It's very close. The reason it's only close is because if you remember, of course I erased it, when we got this number in the calculator from doing the 1.025 to the 1/12, I'll even type it in again real quick. We got this. That 1.00205983363 is this number rounded. Because it's rounded, it's not going to be perfectly identical. It's going to be close because it's a rounded value. It's not exactly equivalent, but it's definitely the closest one just as a rounded number. So I do want to write this down, 3677.2019, blah, blah, blah. You should, of course, check the rest of your answers. So the next one, choice 2, is 3,500 times 1.00206 to the x divided by 12. And I got 3,501. That is not close. It's off by like over 100. So I want to get rid of that one. That is not going to be my answer, especially if you're just trying to find which one's closest. So then I'm going to go to my next choice, choice 3, 1.34489 to the 12x. Boom, very far off. That is not the answer. Choice 4, last one I have to plug in, 1.34489 to the x over 12. Okay, this one I get 3677 as well, 0.188, blah, blah, blah. So you don't necessarily want to pick the closest one, because remember, these are rounded values. What we just did using that shortcut is we got ourselves down to a 50-50 shot. If you're clueless at this point, yeah, I don't want to ever recommend eeny, meeny, miny, mo, because like I said in the beginning, there's another way of doing this question. We were going from years to months, so this number needed to get smaller. So it had to be choice 1. But when in doubt, using that shortcut word for this question, get you down to a 50-50 shot. Unfortunately, you probably would have picked choice 4. But again, it's just sometimes it works, sometimes it's not the best thing to use. That's why I tell people, like, use it as a check, use it as a like way out if you're totally stumped on a question. But we saw that this one was choice 1 when rewritten with that monthly growth rate. Okay. Now, I do want to also show you this shortcut for a part 2, 3, or 4 question, but like the part 2, 3, or 4 idea is when you have to show that work, okay? So this should not be there. I apologize. Ignore that. That's just a little typo. Number 6 says express blot in simplest form. So there's no multiple choice answers here to plug in. You would actually have to do this question. So I'm going to go through how to do it quickly. If you want more details on how to do questions like this, you can watch my exam review videos. I just want to focus on the shortcuts for this one. So again, if I speed round through this, I apologize. Anytime an I has an exponent, you do want to simplify that. If you don't remember what I to the third is, you can type it into your calculator by pressing second decimal point. It's a negative I. So if this is replaced with a negative I, that would make this negative 2xi minus 3y, and I'm just going to do it all at once. Squared means write it twice, so I'm going to write negative 2xi minus 3y. Now, this is going to be double distributing, so I have to do negative 2xi times negative 2xi. That's a positive 4x squared, I squared. Then I keep going. Negative 2 times negative 3 is a plus 6, and it's xi times y, so it's literally xyi. Do the same thing here. It's a positive 6xyi. And then here, negative 3y times negative 3y is a positive 9y squared. Now, like I said in the beginning, we simplified it there. I can't have a exponent on an I in my final answer. So if you forgot what I squared is, just type it in. Type it in correctly. Don't do whatever the heck I am doing right now. What? No. I squared is negative 1. So this gets replaced with a negative 1, and this whole term becomes negative 4x squared. These can combine. It'll get me plus 12xyi, and then this doesn't combine with anything. It'll come down as a 9y squared. Now, I can keep a squared on a y. It's just that you can't have an exponent on an I in your final simplified answer. So nothing else combines. That's my final answer. To do the check, you can do your 2 stow x, plug it into your original, 2 stow x, plug it into your answer, and they should be equivalent. So I'm going to show you 2 stow x, enter. The original was this right here, so I'm going to type this in exactly as I see it. So parentheses, 2xi to the third minus 3. Ooh, I forgot this one had a y. Oopsie. So I have to do 3 stow y. We haven't done y yet. It's alpha 1 to get a y. I apologize. When there's multiple letters, you have to store for those letters. Now I'll type in my original. So I have 2xi to the third minus 3y alpha 1 squared. Make sure I typed it in right, and we're good. So when I type that in, I get 65 plus 72i. Now when I plug in my answer, I should get that same thing, negative 4x squared plus 12xyi plus 9y squared. And boom, I do. So 65 plus 72i. So again, that was just a check. This means nothing, like literally means nothing. You just wanted to see that they were equivalent. If you made a mistake, like maybe you put a negative here on accident and you type that into your calculator, let's again, pretend I made a mistake and had a negative there. I didn't get equivalent expressions at the end, which is a huge red flag, and it would cause you to go back, check your work, maybe just restart the question and redo it over here. But that would be like the checking way of seeing that your answer didn't work, and you would want to go back and fix it, okay? All right, that was all shortcut number 1, which is what, again, you want to use if it says anything in terms of equals. Written as, same as, not equivalent to, has the same solutions, does not have the same solutions. Any of that can be used, okay? Now, shortcut number 2 is solving. This one's a little bit more self-explanatory. If you are solving something, multiple choice or a part 2 type of question, you can take the answers, plug them into your original equation to see if they work. So I'm just going to jump right into an example to show you, and especially when it works, you'll see what I mean when I show in the example. So number 7, what is the solution of the equation? You guys don't actually have to go through and solve this. It's giving you multiple choice answers of possible answers it could be. You're going to take those answers and plug them in to your equation. So I'm going to be smart about it and use my stow option, negative 3 stow x, enter. You can go through and actually do negative 3 plus 5 times negative 3. But look at how much extra work that's going to be to plug it in. It's just not worth it, especially when it's a negative, and you have to be careful with parentheses. Okay. 83 calculator people, when you're plugging in a fraction that has a lot on top, a lot on the bottom, you have to put parentheses around the whole top, parentheses around the whole bottom. And again, that's for my 83 calculator people. 84 calculator people, either hit alpha y equals enter or alpha x, whichever one works for your calculator, to get that fraction set up. Now I already did my negative 3 stow x, so I'm just going to type in the equation, x squared. Double checking that I typed it in correctly. Okay. When you type it into your calculator, this is an app thing, and I apologize, it will say undefined or it'll say error. It won't say overflow. -3 is actually a rejected value. If you do this the right way, you would see that -3 can't work. I'll show you really quick. If you factor the bottom, you get x plus 3, x minus 1. When you plug a -3 into this, -3 plus 3 is 0, and you can't have a 0 in the denominator of your fraction. That's why it's giving you an error, which means that -3 does not work. So if -3 doesn't work, choice 2 is out and choice 3 is out. So the next one I have to check is 6/5. So I'm going to stow that to make my life easier. 6, whoops. 6 divided by 5, stow x, enter. And then again, type in that expression. So I have, you could copy and paste it. I accidentally cleared mine out. So I'm just going to keep typing it in. 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 over x squared plus 2x minus 3, and I get 7. So when I plug in 6/5, I get 7. Because I plugged it in and I got 7 here, I get 7 equals 7, and that works. So that means that 6/5 is a solution, and that would be my answer. If you plugged in 6/5 and let's say you got like 8, 8 does not equal 7, and that means that answer would also not work, and it would have been choice 1, which is no solutions. That's what this means, is no solutions. So just kind of check all of the answers, plug them into the original equation, see which ones work. If they all don't work, then it's going to be that no solutions option. If you get that error, it just means that it doesn't work in the expression, or the equation, I should say, and then you're good to go. All right, so number 8, what is the solution set of the following system of equations? I have 2 equations there. That's what a system means. When you're solving for a system, there's going to be multiple variables that you have to plug in. You'll notice for this one, they are points. So this is x and y. So you can use that 2 stow x, or not 2, I'm so sorry, -5 stow x, 9 stow y for checking choice 1, or you can just plug in the x and see if it ends up getting you that y value. So I'll show you what I mean. For choice 1, I'm going to do, because this is in the x spot, -5 stow x, enter. And because this one has the y by itself, it'll be much easier to just plug in the x and see if it's equal to that y. So I'm going to type in 3x plus 6. When I type in 3x plus 6, I got a -9. That's supposed to be equal to this side, which would have a 9 plugged into it. Since I got a -9, that means that choice 1 is not my answer. So now I need to try choice 2. Choice 2 says x is 5, so I'm going to do 5 stow x, enter, and again, type it in as 3x plus 6. What I'm looking at here, what I'm looking at here when I type it in for y and this side is y should be 21. So you're going to get 21 equals whatever I get when I plug in 5 for x, which I just typed into my calculator. I get 21. So that means that 521 is an answer, but that doesn't mean choice 2 is the answer. Look at all of them. 521 works, but 521 is also here. So all I learned right now is that choice 3 is not the answer because 521 did work. Now, 521 only worked in one of them. I should double check that it works in the other one as well. So I'm going to type that into this right here. So it's x plus 4 squared minus 10, and I should be getting 21. And I don't. So when I plugged in 5 into my second equation, 21 actually didn't work. So I'm going to undo crossing that off, and 521 is actually incorrect. So it can't be this one or this one. It has to be choice 3. It's the only one left, but of course, we are overachievers. We're going to check that answer, but see how you have to check it in everything. It's so important. So now for this one, I'm going to do 0 stow x, enter, because 0 is in the x spot. And when I plug in 0 to both equations, I should get an outcome of 6. So I'll type it into the first one, 3x plus 6, I got 6. Plug it into the next one, x plus 4 squared minus 10, I also got 6. So that means that this one is an answer. Check that next one as well, -5 stow x, enter. I'm going to copy and paste to make life easier. I get -9, I get -9. So this one also worked. It's choice 3. But see how if you don't check it for all of them, I actually crossed off 3 because I was so confident. 521 worked in the first one. I was confident it would work in the second one, and it didn't. So you have to always check everything. Okay. All right, number 9 is kind of a tricky one, but it's, again, that same type of question. See how it's talking about the solution, the solution, the solution. It's giving you possible answers, so you have to plug those answers in to your equation, and it's easiest to do with that stow button. So for number 9, the solution to the equation blah is, for checking ones like this, see how it has that plus or minus? That's 2 answers. You have to remember that that means this is -6 plus 2i and -6 minus 2i. Both have to work when you plug them into your equation. So this one's a little lengthier, but let's give it a try. So for choice 1, I'm going to do -6 plus 2i, stow x, enter. So I'm checking this right now, -6 plus 2i. I have to plug that into my equation. Now see, on the equation there are 2 sides. You have to plug it into both sides to see if they end up matching. So I'm going to do -1/2 x squared for the left side. For the left side, let me just check. Yep, making sure I plugged it in right. I got -16 plus 12i. I want to see if that's equal to the right side. So the right side is -6x plus 20. And I got 56 minus 12i. Not equal. So that means that when I plugged this in here and here, it didn't work in the equation. So choice 1, not my answer. Because this was not going to work, because that plus did not work, that means it doesn't even matter if the minus works because this is immediately wrong. It's wrong right away. So I don't have to check that next one. I'm going on to the next. So choice 2, I'm going to do -6 plus 2 square root of 19, stow x, enter. And then again, I'm going to type in the left and the right side. So -1/2 x squared. This is what I get, and I want to see if that's equal to the right side. So -6x plus 20. Of course, I cleared everything. Otherwise, I would have copied and pasted. Those are not equivalent. So I know they're close, but they are not equivalent. Sorry, just double check that I typed it in right. That one does not work either. Because the plus didn't work, I don't have to check the minus. Okay, let's try the next one. 6 plus 2i, stow x, enter. And I'm going to type in the left side. I'm just going to copy and paste. I got -16 minus 12i on the left. When I type in the right side, that -6x plus 20, I got -16 minus 12i. And look, they match. That's going to be my answer if the minus works as well. So I'm going to do 6 minus 2i, stow x, enter. Check it on the left side of the equation. I'm just copying and pasting. I got -6 plus 12i. On the right side of the equation, I get -16 plus 12i. They check out. They are equivalent, so this one is definitely my answer. You should double check for that last one. So 6 plus 2 square root of 19, stow x, enter. Type in the left side of the equation, the right side of the equation. They do not match. It's not choice 4. So a little lengthy to do it. The right way to do this question would have actually been the quadratic formula because you're solving a quadratic. It has that x squared, but it's quadratic formula with a fraction. Of course, it's doable. You guys have probably done something like that before, but it's nice to have this as either backup or a way to check your work. Okay. Now, this shortcut will also work for part 2s or 3s or 4s, basically the show your work questions as well. Because this is a shortcut video, I'm going to go through the right way to do it kind of quickly. This is a square root equation. I just want to go through it quickly so I can show you how to check. Okay. When you're solving a square root equation, the goal is to get the square root by itself. So I'm going to subtract the 6 over. So I have 2x minus 6 equals 2 square root of x minus 1. I still want to get that square root by itself. So this 2 is being multiplied. I'm going to divide by the 2. I get x minus 3 equals the square root of x minus 1. Now, once you get that square root by itself, you got to get rid of the square root. So to undo a square root, you have to square both sides, the whole side. So that square root and squared cancel each other out, and I get x minus 1. The square root goes away. Nothing happens underneath it. They just cancel. That's what I get. But on the left side, it's squared, so it's x minus 3 times x minus 3. Now, I need to multiply this out. It's x times x, which is x squared. I'm going to shortcut this. This is minus 3x minus 3x. When I combine them, I get minus 6x. Negative 3 and negative 3 is a positive 9. Now, on this side, it's still equal to x minus 1. When you were solving a quadratic, you want to get it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract the x, add the 1, subtract the x, add the 1. And I get x squared minus 7x plus 8. Why did I write 9? Clearly, this video is too long. Sorry, equals 0. So I added those over, got it equal to 0. At this point, you can either use the quadratic formula or factoring Love all these spam calls that keep coming through. So I got it equal to 0. Like I said, quadratic formula or factor. Factoring is faster. So for this one, it's an easy trinomial. You want to see what multiplies to 10 and adds to -7. So the numbers that multiply to 10 and add to -7 are going to be -2 and -5. So I'm going to have x minus 5, x minus 2 equals 0. Tee it up, and I get x equals +5 and x equals +2. Now, a couple of really important things to remember for a square root equation is after you show all of that work, this is a situation where you have to check your answers anyway because something is likely going to be rejected. If something needs to be checked anyway, you want to just check no matter what, but this one has to be checked. So I'm going to check it like I've been doing with those shortcuts, with the multiple choice above, taking the answers, so 5 stow x enter, and you want to type it into your original equation before you did anything. So this, I have to type it into the left side, which is just 2x. So when I'm checking x equals 5, I get 10 on the left side. I want to see if I get 10 on the right side. So I'm going to type in the right side, 6 plus 2, square root of x minus 1, and I get 10. That's good. So that means that 5 is a solution. Now let's go through and check the other answer, which was x equals 2. So I'm going to 2 stow x enter. The left side was 2 times x, which is just 4. I want to see if I get 4 on the right side, and I get 8 when I type it into the right side. 4 does not equal 8, so that means that 2 gets rejected, and your answer is x equals 5. Even if it's a situation like maybe you're just solving a quadratic, it's not a square root equation, and you just want to check your answers and you don't have to, you just want to. Do that exact same thing. Of course, something won't reject if it's not a rejectable situation. But you can always just take your answer, plug it back in, make sure it works. This is what I mean by make sure it works. Okay, if you want to practice more of these shortcuts, I am going to show you a couple of blank pages. You can take screenshots of this to give it a try, and I'll show you the answers at the end. So take a screenshot of this if you want to practice. Okay, take a screenshot of this if you would like to practice. Take a screenshot of this if you would like to practice. I'm sorry, I can't get the whole, there we go. There's actually the whole page if you want a screenshot, 5 through 9. And then this last page, 10 through 14. Go ahead and screenshot. And here are the answers. So if you want more practice, you don't have to do all of them. Obviously, you don't have to do any of them. It's entirely up to you. It's just more practice with them, and then double check that you're getting them right by checking the answers here. So good luck on your exam, everybody.